space investors, welcome back to Stock Trek for this Rocket Lab Saturday where we break down rockets and returns. And this Rocket Lab Saturday we will be going over Rocket Lab's growth curve versus SpaceX growth trajectory. We will look at launch cadences, timelines for bigger rockets, as well as future possible outcomes for both companies. So follow along because this one, the gap is closer between the two than you think. So SpaceX was originally incorporated in 2002 and Rocket Lab in 2006. So Rocket Lab was founded only 4 years after the founding of SpaceX. As far as the first orbital success, SpaceX's Falcon 1 reached orbit in September of 2008, just 6 years after its founding. Whereas Rocket Lab reached orbit in January of 2018, 12 years after its founding. You may be wondering, why was it a little bit longer for Rocket Lab compared to SpaceX in the beginning? Well, look at it this way. Back in 2008, when SpaceX was doing their launches, there was far less competition, contracts, things like that. There was definitely less fish in the water vying for the same fish food. Come Rocket Lab, by the time 2018 rolls around, you have a lot of new small sat launchers trying to get out there vying for contracts, and venture capital was a little spread thin by that point. Also, Rocket Lab went down a different path. They decided to, instead of doing the medium lift first, they decided let's do the small lift first. So they're kind of going backwards, and even though they're going backwards from where SpaceX started, they're still kind of ending up along the same path. Now let's move on to first-gen rockets for both companies and early launch cadence. So between 2006 and 2009, SpaceX launched the Falcon 1 rocket 5 times. However, only one of those times was actually a success, and then they went on to have a launch success rate of about 1.25 out of their launches. So their beginning was a little rocky. Then came along the larger Falcon 9 version 1.0, which debuted in 2010 and completed about 5 flights up into 2013. Electron's very first orbital flight succeeded on attempt number 3. And from 2018 through today, Electron has flown a total of 66 flights. Of those 66, 62 were a success, which means Rocket Lab has about a 93% and above success rate. That means Rocket Lab is averaging 11 launches per year since its debut, which outpaces SpaceX's first 5-year performance by a factor of 4. So Rocket Lab, while it may appear to have come off slower, they're actually gaining more momentum and more traction earlier on. Now here's where SpaceX really takes off. As far as chronology, just 22 months after Falcon 1's first successful flight, then you have Falcon 9. By September of 2013, the stretched version 1.1 version lifted off carrying the SES-8 demo towards GTO. Rocket Lab's answer to that Falcon 9 is in fact Neutron, which is a 15-ton class. Currently partially reusable rocket, aimed at directly for competing for those Constellation and Department of Defense contracts. Management also reaffirmed last quarter that Neutron should be flying in 2025, probably towards the end of the year, whereas analysts had previously speculated it might be pushed out as far back as 2027, but you know, those rumors have been squashed. So let's do the math here. For Electron in 2018 to Neutron in 2025, that is only a 7-year gap. almost identical to SpaceX's 2008 to 2015 jump from Falcon 1 to reusable Falcon 9 full thrust. So technically, if Neutron comes to fly on schedule, Rocket Lab will have completed virtually the same size almost as SpaceX in about the same amount of time, but with 1/10 of the capital and a near perfect success string. Now we are off to the reusability races. SpaceX gained reusability when it flew on March 30th, 2017, a Falcon 9 booster B1021, and it reflew the SES satellite first orbital class booster reuse. Today, SpaceX is reusing those boosters like clockwork, and Rocket Lab, on the other hand, on May 2nd, 2002, literally went there and back again. That was a fun one to watch, where Rocket Lab was focusing on reusability by using a Sikorsky helicopter to catch the Electron booster at the descent. That was one that I did watch. It was really cool. Unfortunately, things like that don't always work out, and Rocket Lab did end up deciding that a splashdown landing was far easier and economical than trying to pluck a booster out of the sky with a helicopter. So, moving forward, their medium lift Neutron will not be caught with a helicopter, obviously. That would be very difficult. It's pretty heavy. And instead of doing splashdown in the water landings with a parachute, it will literally be landing on a platform in the middle of the ocean, safe and sound, without getting wet. So that is how Neutron will be reusable in the beginning. And then moving forward, I'm sure the fairings and other things eventually will be reused. Everything is going to be reusable, hopefully. I think that's the goal. And that's the end of the game there. So the only difference here is that SpaceX first proved its reusability with a heavy lift scale, whereas Rocket Lab proved reusability on a small scale with Electron moving up to a medium scale. So they're basically achieving the same finish line. They're just starting at different points to get there. So let's talk about launch cadence and market share between SpaceX and Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab is looking to launch over 20 launches this year in 2025, including the HASTE suborbitals. Whereas SpaceX is now trending to launch over 110 launches in 2025. But keep in mind that the first 7 Falcon 9 flight years only averaged a little bit over 6 flights per year. And Electron's current success rate is over 93% success, whereas Falcon 9's first 7 years success rate hovered at about 85% before it finally reached over 98% success rate. So basically, Rocket Lab is exceeding SpaceX's early launch cadence years. On top of that, it is consuming less capital to do it, and it has a higher success rate. And here's where things gets really juicy. Let's talk about the financial momentum. Now, Rocket Lab's Q1 2025 revenue was a little over $122 million. That is up 32% year over year. Not to mention guidance is over $900 million once Neutron is flying. And Rocket Lab is targeting to be cash flow positive within 18 months of Neutron's debut. Now let's compare that with SpaceX's 2013 revenue of about $1 billion, which was 5 years after the Falcon 9 debut. Which those are remarkably similar curves, but Rocket Lab now has the advantage of a booming small satellite market. Not to mention space systems. In other words, with all that said, Rocket Lab may actually hit that $1 billion mark, and without its own mega constellation. So where will Rocket Lab and SpaceX be 5 years from now? We should be seeing Neutron booking flights. We should also be seeing Neutron have multi-stages reuse, so not just the booster, but also the fairings and other areas. We should also see an increase in the revenue that Photon brings in as far as the space sales, as well as an increase in the space systems. If Rocket Lab can scale Neutron's launch cadence to 1 per month by 2028, then technically Rocket Lab could take up as much as 8% of the global up-launch mass. I know that might not sound like a lot, however, 8% is actually quite a big slice compared to what everyone else is doing right now. As far as SpaceX in 5 years, Starship will be targeting weekly flights by 2027 for its point-to-point cargo. So does there seem to be a bit of a launch monopoly danger with SpaceX's Starship? There could be, however, I do think Rocket Lab is targeting the sweet spot with the medium lift rocket, Neutron. I really think that that's going to capture a nice piece of the market share that Starship might not be able to grasp. Think of it this way, SpaceX is the Airbus A380 of rockets, and Rocket Lab wants to be the 737 MAX. Smaller, faster turn, fits most runways, and prints money at volume. The question is, will Rocket Lab's Neutron moment capture that same effect of SpaceX's Falcon 9 moment? That we will have to see. And will Neutron be able to carve out a profitable lane below Starship's megatonnage? Be sure to drop your 2030 predictions for both SpaceX and Rocket Lab in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think on where you think both these companies will be landing, or should I say going up, in 2030. Now for the interesting part. I literally took a lot of numbers, crunched them together, Rocket Lab's current market cap, as well as its PE multiple and its current share price, and my predictions for where I think this stock will be headed as far as the stock price and the valuation. If Rocket Lab, now this is an if, a whole bunch of ifs, and this has to be executed perfectly, which Rocket Lab could do because they are pretty good at their execution. That didn't sound right, did it? No, but they're pretty good at getting things done, right? But here's my scenario, okay? If Rocket Lab can get Neutron flying successfully, get Neutron fully reusable, if they can have a constellation put up of their own, and if they manage to have a software as a service product that they could sell to the masses on top of all this, I think Rocket Lab's valuation in 5 to 7 years could easily be about 165 billion in valuation. That's if they tick all those boxes. I think that could put the share price anywhere from 165 to 285. I know that's a bit broad, but it depends on how many boxes they get ticked off. If they do the majority, I could see the share price being in the high 280s. But again, this is a golden scenario. This is not factoring in share dilution, which they will probably do down the line, you know, only to go into R&D. But in a good, let's say, bullish case scenario, I can see the share price within 5 years being at about $280 a share. So we will have to check back this video in 5 years time and see where I'm at. And you know, this is just based on like current valuations and things like that. It could be a lot higher, you know, depending on the hype around it. There aren't many rocket launchers that are on the stock exchange at the moment. So yeah, that is a factor that can drive it up even more. But in the near term, you know, my belief is $50 a share in the near term with Neutron flying and that milestone accomplished. But I would say in 5 to 7 years, I could see the share price being at 280 a share. So that's the high end. That's if they tick all the boxes. So This will be interesting. I will have to bookmark this video and check it back in 5 years. We'll see how this does. And if you enjoy watching these Rocket Lab videos, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button because I post them every Saturday here on the Stock Trek channel. And you can also follow me, Stock Trek Girl, on formerly Twitter, now X, under the handle name Stock Trek Girl. And as always, until next time, invest long and prosper.